for the fastest Mini in the world. After qualifying yesterday, it's going to see number 18 Matthew Howe start from pole position alongside number 60 Harvey Deeth. So that is going to be one to watch out for. The second row would have been Richard Billingham. He's not there, but then we see the De Silvas alongside in car number 44. The third row, number 77 Richard Morris and 19 Mark Goff. The fourth row, number 70 is Fabio Lufarelli and 121 Jamie Billingham. The fifth row, 132 Lewis Salmon and would have been number 65 Clive Deeth, but he is missing. The sixth row, number 1 is Richard Higgins, joined by number 51 Anton Trevette. The seventh row is going to be number 149, which is Gary Warburton, and number 2 Tony Hunting. The eighth row, number 266, is going to see Lee Jones, joined by number 5, which was Nigel Deeth, and then further back we have 266, which is going to be Lee Jones and number 5 Nigel Deeth. Quite a few Deeths in this field. The ninth row, number 33, is Andy Shaw, and number 11 Jim Lyons, and the final place on the grid should be number 777, which is Warren Slater. So that gives you the lineup for this 15-minute race. We have got the cars very shortly to head off onto their formation lap. A little bit eager there for Harvey Deeth. We've got the historic Mini heading off first in terms of the pace car. Then we have the BMW safety car, and then we have the field working its way off the grid. So just to give you a little bit of detail about this, the fastest Mini in the world invites any racing derivative of the classic Mini, i.e. whether it be a saloon, an estate, a space frame, super saloon or a Marcos. This range of Minis will be aiming to win that class or the race outright, whichever they have the pace for. The front running cars will typically be the highly developed space frame Minis, which we'll see of those two in fact on the front row of the grid. All of these will be jostling to become this year's fastest Mini in the world competitor, but do keep an eye out for other special Minis fighting it out there within their respective classes as well. We have 4 classes to look out for. Class A is for those with no engine restrictions and aerodynamic additions are permitted. We then have Class B, which is for any engine less than 1.6 litres. Aerodynamic additions are permitted once again there as well. Class C is for the A series engined cars, which are over 1.3 litre, but they are not allowed any aerodynamic additions to those cars. And Class D is where you find the lowest powered cars in terms of the A series, less than 1.3 litres, and again no aerodynamic additions are allowed. So that gives you a little bit of what the classes are, and of course there are different awards and prizes up for grabs for these drivers as well. But we are looking for the fastest Mini in the world. We are looking for the race winner, but we are also potentially looking for a new lap record, which currently stands in the hands of Harvey Deeth. That was set back in 2022 on a 51.017. So let's see if we can beat that here in race number 1. It's a rolling start then for these competitors. Unfortunate not to see Richard Billingham on the grid. He did qualify yesterday, but he is the reigning winner of this race from last year. But it's not going to be him on the grid, unfortunately. So the cars work their way to the line. 15 minutes for the first fastest Mini in the world here today at Brands Hatch. On a terrific start further back, they'll try to be from Fabio Lufarelli, but it's going to be Matthew Howe who leads the pack down towards the first corner. Then we have the De Silvas trying to work their way past the Harvey Deeth car, but Harvey's going to try and hold on. It will be the outside line in towards Druids Corner, but he has some good acceleration and some good braking capabilities as well. So Harvey gets himself back ahead of the De Silvas in the number 44 machine, and then up into 4th place is going to be that green machine by the looks of it of number 19, which is Mark Goff.
It is indeed, but Harvey Deeth, he hasn't managed to shake off the attentions of Rohit De Silva and Ashan Silva at the moment as they pick their way through Surtees and then back up this slight incline through McLaren and Clearway. So the leader at the moment remains as Matthew Howe. We need to keep an eye on the race lead, as you say, and also keep an eye on lap times as well. But over the line now will come Matthew Howe to take the first lap in the book, and it's so quick over the line. And you find them braking so early into turn 1 just by way of trying to get the car slowed down. Keep an eye, however, on the number 1 machine of Richard Higgins, because he's slightly later on the brakes than the cars around him. Just doesn't quite have the legs in a straight line.
No, doesn't, does he? But this is the thing. It's all about the speed and the potential that these cars do have, and of course how they get turned out by the owners as well. But for Matthew Howe, he's well on his way. Harvey Deeth trying his best to keep with him as he turns away through Granville Bend and on towards the Cooper Straight for the second time. Already we have had on that opening lap of 54.8, but the question will be, do you go early for your quickest lap, or do you try and save it for when the car's at its lightest, but then the tyres might not be at their best? It's all about when you want to try and do your fastest lap, to try and get this into the book. But as we said, Harvey Deeth is the man who currently holds that as Matthew Howell goes through, and he's done it already on the end of the second lap, a 50.789. So we already have in this race the new lap record.
Yeah, and effectively, albeit provisionally, a new fastest mini in the world by way of Matthew Howell. So he's still got a bit of work to do to get that car towards the line. I noticed as well, I saw it yesterday walking around the paddock, how far back Harvey Deeth has to sit in his mini because of the size of the V8. He's effectively sat on the back seat in his car, but I would say to the eye, he's closing down on Matthew Howell, and we may just about see another new lap record if Harvey Deeth strings the rest of this lap together.
Yeah, it takes him a little bit of time, doesn't it, to work this car to the pace it needs, but you're absolutely right. Harvey Deeth is now almost with Matthew Howell as he comes up towards the line. If Howell goes quicker, then Deeth will, by sure, be even quicker than that. He's not, but Harvey Deeth has taken his lap record back now, so he didn't want Matthew to have it for too long, and we're down to a 50.288. Could we potentially get into the 49s in this race? That would be absolutely incredible. But I think for now, Harvey Deeth would just want to try and get past the car ahead of him to try and win the race overall. So down the hill they come once more. It's a lovely looking car of Harvey Deeth, and the spit of flame we see every single lap out of the left-hand side exhaust. It is absolutely incredible. It's a lovely car, lovely driven, and Harvey Deeth now right onto the back of Matthew Howell through the right-hander of McLaren.
Yeah, Fabio Lafarelli on the lap prior did manage to pick his way through and past Mark Goff, so that has been the change for 4th and 5th respectively. Fabio Lafarelli quite convincingly leading Class B in a straight line. You'd expect Harvey Deeth to be quicker, and as soon as he gets that car running on song, as we see, that's when he can really start to apply that pressure. So you can see the car squirming in a straight line, just trying to put the power down. Not quite as quick through the corners, but by God is it quick in a straight line. So Harvey Deeth in 2nd place as he crossed the line, less than 2 tenths between himself and the race leader of Matthew Howell. So those top two absolutely together. They're picking their way through traffic as one. Harvey Deeth again late on the brakes, a spit of flame out of the side of his car as he picks his way through Graham Hill Bend. The short burst for Harvey Deeth, what will be along the Cooper Straight, a quick flash of the brake lights, down a gears through Surtees and then up the hill on the brakes again through McLaren and Clearways, and it's just hanging on for dear life through Clark Curve, waiting for the car to grip. We now may see the change because Matthew Howell not quite as quick in a straight line. Harvey Deeth will be closing all the way along the Brabham Straight. On the brakes, can Harvey Deeth be brave enough as he breaks the beam once again? Not another fastest lap of the race. He managed to set that nice and early. We may still see that time come down in the latter stages of this race, but Harvey Deeth, I think it's a matter of when and not if he will get past Matthew Howell.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it, how Harvey Deeth holds on to the power underneath that bonnet of that Mini, but he's doing a grand job just to keep it in a straight line and also keep with Matthew Howell, and no real surprise that we're already into the traffic of some of the slower cars out there, so that might just be a little bit of a concern for Matthew. Goes right through the middle of 2 of them down the Cooper Straight, but doesn't delay him or Harvey Deeth on the run through the left-hander. That number 60 machine is a car which has been built by a very experienced team, Martin Short's team at Roll Centre Racing, who are very experienced in building cars and also racing them as well. They've done many in terms of Le Mans cars. At the time when this car was built back in 2008, 2009, they were already getting those cars ready in LMP1. So as I said, very experienced team, and this car kicking out some 380 horsepower in terms of under the bonnet. So up the hill he goes once again, and just starting to slow in terms of the lap time, not hugely, down to the 50.6s now for both Matthew and also for Harvey in 1st and 2nd places. For 3rd place, just to tell you, it's still the De Silvas at the minute in car number 44, but they are a distant 15 seconds back.
Very, very smoky Mark Goff on the run through turn 1. It looks more like tyre than anything else, rubbing on bodywork. Whatever's gone on there, clearly that will require some attention. He will see that in his rearview mirror. It is still rubbing, and it very much is tyre. Front left tyre rubbing on bodywork, it would seem. You mentioned Martin Short, and very much a racing family of the Shorts. Obviously, Morgan Short racing in GT Cup and abroad this year, joined by his brother Marcus Short, who's just as quick. So they know what they're doing when it comes to motorsport. But that very smoky Mark Goff picks his way in towards, hopefully, the pit lane come the end of this lap as he's heading through McLaren and Clearways. But the top 2 remain Matthew Howell and Harvey Deeth, still absolutely nose to tail.
They are indeed, yep. So down the hill they come once more in towards the left-hander of Graham Hill Bend. Half a second across the line is what the gap is. But of course, Harvey Deith we know is quick in a straight line, but then through the corners, Matthew Howell seems to have the ability just to pull away. So it's a circuit of two halves at the minute, but can Harvey Deith do anything about making a move? It's going to be a hard one. Maybe the traffic might play its part within this race at some point. With just over 8 minutes to go, still having the blue flags wave for these slightly slower cars of first off number 51, which is down there in 10th position at the minute. That's Anton Trevette, who is with the Owens fabrication. Of course, Owens, Endalf Owens, who we saw out in that previous race, does prepare that car. But for now, Howell and Deith up towards Drew as they go. The gap comes down once again to 3/10.
It does indeed, and I noticed Warren Slater slightly tentative to put absolutely everything into that car, and I mean, I don't blame him. Obviously, he had a wheel part ways with his car yesterday, so you can imagine the nerves would be quite high for Warren Slater. But at the moment, I would say Harvey Deith is closer than he's been all race to race leader Matthew Howell, just heading through McLaren and Clearways, and there's a car length between them. There's absolutely nothing between them. Harvey Deith in a straight line. We know he's quicker. We could see the change here.
Yep, just about that acceleration, just making sure you are very, very easy with it as you come onto the straight. But Harvey looking good then as he gets the run down towards Paddock Hill Bend. He can't break as late as Matthew Howell, so he carries the speed into the corner. Harvey was very wide in towards Paddock Hill Bend. I don't know if that was the preferred line he wanted or just missed his braking point, but nonetheless he has managed to stay just about with the race leader as they turn now in towards Druids once again. Harvey Deith at this stage of the race looking quite racy as he works his way downhill in towards Graham Hill Bend. The door was almost left open by the race leader, and again this is the part of the circuit where Harvey Deith does accelerate in terms of the power he has, but again he can't find his way through it. More traffic to deal with then for the race leader. Doesn't be a concern for him on the run through McLaren, so Lewis Salmon steps aside for both of the front runners, but Harvey Deith there just slightly delayed, and the gap will be more than it was a lap ago.
Yeah, into the pit lane as well comes Mark Goff. He's clearly noticed that he has an issue with that car, but at the moment Harvey Deith, he's not quite as close as he needs to be to take the lead away from Matthew Howell. Over the line in what is third place, but quite some way behind will be Rohit De Silva and Ashan Silva, the men from Sri Lanka, still giving chase, but they cannot afford to lift off or have any sort of mistake, because Fabio Lafarelli is just sat behind now. Over the line, the pair of those two go. Fabio almost runs out of gear as he comes towards the line, but traffic is now massively playing a part, and Matthew Howell and Harvey Deith picking their way through the same pieces of traffic almost as one.
Yeah, but all the slower cars have just been very wary and observant of those quicker ones coming through. So I think Jamie Billingham is the next one, 121, the orange machine, which is a lovely turned out car once again. So the Austin Mini steps to one side, and we've now lapped up to and including 6th place. So absolutely flying are the top two, which are still separated by less than a second. But is Harvey Deith going to have his chance to get through in what is now going to be a very slow Warren Slater across the line? But Warren Salter who goes across the line there. It's been pretty much running like that for the majority of the race, but again just making sure he stays out of the way and gets the laps completed that he needs to do as they turn away now the leaders on towards the back straight once again in towards 30s, and McLaren they're about to go, and Matthew Howell now very much under pressure from Harvey Deith as they turn away in towards McLaren. There's no gap through there. Matthew had that covered all the way through in towards Clearways, so can now Harvey accelerate with all this power on towards the Brabham Straight. He comes once again. Time is running out, 4.5 minutes to go. It has to be now or it's never going to happen, is it, for Harvey, because he's tried on every single occasion, but Matthew Howell some way in this race is making that Mini very, very wide indeed. So Harvey has to try and think outside the box really and see if he can spring a surprise where Matthew Howell would not really be thinking about it, and it will be round the outside at Druids Corner, which is going to be the job done, and Harvey Deith does finally get himself up into the lead of the race, so he's now ticked that box off as well. He has the fastest lap from earlier in the race on a 50.288, and now he has the race lead. But can Matthew Howell keep himself on the back of Harvey Deith and potentially come back into the equation at some point? We'll have to wait and see. As it stands, Andy Shaw makes his way in towards Paddock Hill Bend. He is currently down in 11th position, sits second within Class D as well, and that car very shortly will be lapped by the race leader. Got a bit of a problem on the right front by the looks of it. Another car which might just be rubbing on the bodywork, but that car just emulating a little bit of smoke from the right front is Andy Shaw, but it seems to be carrying on for the time being.
Yes, and it may just be, normally you'd expect it to be the left front, wouldn't you, really, around here, but that is really the heavily loaded side of the car. But now with Harvey Deeth in front of Matthew Howell, it's a case of, can he run away? We know he's quicker in a straight line, so he will try and maximise his exits to not leave himself vulnerable on the way into the next corner, because that's where we know Matthew Howell is quicker. But all through the gravel and all off the road is one of the cars through Clark Corner. We'll try and pick out exactly who that is. I would say that is probably, is it the number 33 machine? Yes, it is. So Andy Shaw clearly pushing on slightly too much through Clark Corner. Pretty much a self-induced mistake. He got away with it though, dug himself back out the gravel and carried on. Yeah,
that was the car with the smoke on the right front, so maybe it's now not being able to turn as well as it should be. So Shaw gets through, came back onto the circuit, started weaving, which was right in front of the leaders, which is never a good thing. But of course, Andy would have just been trying to shake off the gravel and get the dirt off the tyres as best as he possibly could, but wasn't the best place to do it really in front of the race leaders. But Harvey Deeth unfazed by that one as he pushes now down towards the left-hander of Surtees. 2.5 minutes to go, so with the lap times they are showing, we should be good for 3 more at the end of this. Next one to be lapped is going to be 77, which is going to be that of Richard Morris. So he steps now nicely to one side in the Mini Clubman, and we're now up to lapped and including 5th place. So they've absolutely been the class of the field, have these two. But Harvey Deeth now, as he goes in towards Paddock Hill Bend, just has a nice buffer, doesn't he, over Matthew Howell of 3/4 of a second, and Warren Salter has had a spin on the inside of Paddock Hill Bend for some reason. Yeah,
that's where Warren Salter came to rest yesterday when one of his wheels parted ways with the car. So the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend and halfway up towards Druids will be covered by localised yellows. It is a hot spot. If you make a mistake heading through Paddock Hill Bend, that you will end up somewhere around that section of circuit. But Harvey Deeth, having taken the lead away from Matthew Howell just a few laps ago, has really started to pull away. By the time they get to the line this time, I think the lead margin will be well over a second. In terms of Rohith De Silva and Ashan De Silva, they are controlling the pace perfectly and have pulled out quite the margin between themselves and Fabio Lufarelli at the moment. So over the line there goes Fabio, somewhat off the pace compared to where we've seen him so far. What of the cars coming into the pit lane? Because we've just heard the pit klaxon sound, which makes me think we will have another car coming in, and it isn't Andy Shaw. He's still clearly comfortable with the way that that car is performing, and I think for Harvey Deeth at the moment, the main thing for him is traffic management, pick his way through the traffic as quickly as possible and get the car to the end, which is only what, a lap away. Yeah, Richard Morris I think is the one that came into the pit lane there, which is a big surprise actually. He was inside the top 5, but he is now dropping down the order with some problem towards the end of this race, unfortunately. 30 seconds to go, so Harvey's about to work his way on to the last lap in what is this very special occasion for the fastest Mini in the world, celebrating 30 years in 2024. All kicked off back at Silverstone in August of 1994, and ever since it's been a very, very popular race that we've had here at the Mini Festival. So through Paddock Hill Bend goes what's going to be Harvey Deeth. He now leads by 1.6 seconds, so once that job has been done, he's managed to clear away, hasn't he? He has indeed, and just running away at the rate in which he has been, it's not exactly been pushing the car beyond its limits. All he's doing is making sure he can chip away and not really give Matthew Howell any opportunity to respond and try and get his way back through. But the clock has ticked to 0, and Harvey Deeth is going through the final couple of corners for the final time. Yep, he has been a 4-time winner in the last 12 years, has Harvey Deeth. He's done it back-to-back in 2019, 2021 and 2022. We had a year out, of course, due to COVID, but it looks like it's going to be, for the first race at least, Harvey Deeth back to the top step of the podium. He's done the quickest lap of the race as well. He's ticked every single box in the first of our fastest Mini in the world races here at Brands Hatch. Harvey Deeth wins by what is going to be a second in the end from Matthew Howell. We then have to wait quite a while before we see the De Silva car come through. We're going to have up to the line Fabio Lufarelli, who will be a lap down but will be classified in 4th place, but it's a very slow Fabio Lufarelli towards the end of the race there, about 4 seconds off what his initial best race pace was. So Lufarelli just suffering maybe towards the end as well in the number 70 machine. De Silva, whether it be one of the two drivers, Rohith or Ashan, they'll separate themselves for these two races. So
Across the line will come De Silva in the final step on the podium. Here comes that car now up towards the checkered flag, and well done to them. They're not really anyone to battle with in the race, especially in the late stages of it, but still they come through to take the podium. 46 seconds back from the top two. Luffarelli, as we said, down in 4th place. 5th place will go the way of number 121, which will be the car of Jamie Billingham. That is, no, 121 is not Billingham on the screen. But it should be in the car, but it says actually Chamberlain there, so I'm not too sure where that has come from. 6th place then for the 132 machine, which is Lewis Salmon, and then behind that we will have the 51 machine in 7th place of Anton Trevet, and then behind that in 8th position 149 will be Gary Warburton. Behind them we'll have Tony Hunting in the number 2 machine, and for 10th place with a little bit of smoke as we saw through that race, Andy Shaw in his Mini Cooper S, and then the others unfortunately failing to finish the race. But we did have one of the final finishers there, Nigel Death, in his Austin Mini Cooper S as well, but the rest all suffered some problems and didn't make the end of the race unfortunately. So classification sees Harvey Death win the race and also the quickest lap, new lap record of a 50.288. Matthew Howe comes through in 2nd place ahead of the De Silvas, with Fabio Luffarelli in 4th. 5th place for Adam Chamberlain, then Lewis Salmon, Anton Trevet, Gary Warburton, Tony Hunting and Andy Shaw your top 10, with Richard Morris and the number 5 machine, as we mentioned, Nigel Death, being the final classified finisher. In terms of the classes, it was a win in Class A for Harvey Death. Class B went the way of Fabio Luffarelli. Class C went the way of Lewis Salmon, and for Class D that went the way of what was going to be Gary Warburton. So all of those will be class winners as well in the first of our fastest mini in the world races. We'll do it all again a little bit later on at 3:05, and again with those that suffered, hopefully we'll see them back out there to give us another run for everyone's money. But the lap record, as expected, has been broken by near enough 0.8 of a second. So we did think it might be the case this weekend. All these drivers have been working very hard and tirelessly to make sure that they are in best conditions for this meeting, and just adding a little bit more power where they can, and of course with perfect conditions for these cars, it has given us, as we said, a quickest lap, a new lap record, 50.288. Let's see if we can go any quicker later on.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Matt. So whilst the demo laps are taking place, we can bring you the top 3 from the first fastest mini in the world race of the weekend. So in reverse order, we'll bring on 3rd place. Car number 44 in the A2Z Mini Sprint, a fairly new chassis, only from last year, is Ashan Silva. Onto the podium for me, please. Ashan, round of applause, and he works his way onto the podium. And in 2nd place, car number 18 in his Austin Mini 7, albeit what's left of an original one, Matthew Howell, onto the 2nd step of the podium. There will be a trophy presentation later at around about 4 o'clock for these guys. And the new, effectively, fastest mini in the world, almost a full second faster than the lap record we've seen previously. Onto the podium, please, car number 60, Harvey Death. So onto the podium for Harvey. We will run on and try and grab a word with them. So we'll start with Ashan. Obviously, we know that this is very much a family affair. You and your family come here every year, and it's brilliant to see how involved you are. Does it just make it feel that much better to get onto the podium?
Of course, yeah. I mean, this is my 2nd time over here, so 2nd time in racing in England, and we did a lot of work last year, but this year, I mean, we decided last minute to come for the race, but we have issues with the car, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, the atmosphere is great. It's very different for what I usually do. The family gatherings, how they come, how they stay all the night and enjoy themselves, eating, drinking, dancing. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. I think I will come here every year.
Great stuff. We'll look forward to seeing you again next year, hopefully. Thank you so much, Ash. And we'll go over to Matthew. And sort of tell me, that seemed like you were very quick at the start, and all of a sudden somebody started to apply a bit of pressure. What was that like?
I basically cooked my tyres. I lost a lot of front end, so it's a case of trying to manage it then, and he was coming. We weren't going to stop him, so it's a case of try following as close as you can. If he makes a mistake, capitalise on it.
And are you going to change anything for race team? Maybe look after the tyres earlier so you can be the thorn in his side towards the end?
Oh, definitely there'll be some changes for the 2nd race.
Great stuff. We'll look forward to it. Thank you, Matthew. And the new fastest mini in the world, Harvey, that must feel good. I mean, you already had the lap record, and you were, 9 tenths quicker. So what changed this year compared to just a couple of years ago?
I think being chased by Matthew was a bit of a stimulant, so I just wanted to push fairly hard to start off with, but just be mindful of tyres, and then come on stronger a bit later on. And yeah, so we had a tussle and got close, and we had a good race.
And we know that Matthew's going to be changing things. In response, are you going to change anything or just drive around even quicker?
I think I have to change everything.
Great stuff. Congratulations to the top three. In the meantime, we will let the demo laps carry on, and then we can enjoy yet more of the mini festival here at Brands Hatch.